Hi, you're with Andrew and Vanessa at Yogi Moksha for a 90-minute functional yin practice focusing on the hips. The reason we're focusing on the hips is that they're a fairly critical part of the body. They connect the top half to the bottom half, so that's a fairly important role. And our modern lifestyles don't really do the hips any favours. We spend too much time seated, we're not really opening the hips up, and this can result in a loss of range of motion and also potentially a deterioration in the strength of some of the bones in that area. That's from a physical point of view. From a more subtle point of view, there is a belief that the hips can store a lot of emotions, and therefore working with the hips can allow us to gradually express or release some of these suppressed emotions, which will be very beneficial from an energetic point of view. So, get comfortable seated position on the mat. We're going to start, as we normally do with our practices, with some focused breathing, just to bring our gaze more inward, directing it towards the area we're working with. And that will allow us to perhaps take a snapshot of where we're feeling the hips are at the moment, and then compare that to when we reach our shavasana at the end. So if you're comfortable, bring the eyes to a gentle close, or if you prefer, just a soft gaze on the mat or the floor in front of you. Starting to breathe just in and out through the nostrils. Just a natural rhythm. We're not trying to force a rhythm here. Just allow the body to draw in and expel air as it needs to. But always in our practice, through the nose. As we inhale, feel the air moving over the tip of the nose, up through the nostrils, back of the throat, filling the lungs, perhaps causing the belly to expand. And then as we exhale, the belly comes back in, the air comes back up through the throat, nostrils, and out over the tip of the nose. Just repeating that a few times to your own rhythm. Breathing in and breathing out. And as we do, start to make this the main point of our focus. Have an awareness of what's around you, but we're not really interested in that for the next 90 minutes. What we're interested in is what's happening inside, and therefore we can start by focusing on the breath. Just feeling the subtleties of the movement of the air as it passes in and out of our bodies. On the next inhale, draw the breath down to the hips. Let's go down to the area that we're going to work with. Breathe into the hips. And start to open the mind to sensations there. Maybe physical, maybe more subtle, energetic. But just bring an awareness of how the hips feel at the start of our practice, giving us a baseline that we can compare at the end of our practice. Breathing in and breathing out. And for those that use chakras in their practice, you'll know that in this area we've got the first and the second chakras, Muladhara, associated with grounding, and Svadhisthana, or chakra 2, more associated with creativity and emotions. So an interesting pair of chakras to work with energetically through this practice. As well as the physical benefits of this practice, we'd hope to restore some more balance energetically, particularly in relation to these 2 chakras. So our intention would be to become more grounded and be more open emotionally, creatively. Clearer sense of self. Just a couple more breaths now. In your own time, gently blinking open the eyes. Getting ready for our first posture. We're going to work with the target area is the groin, the inside of the legs. So to do that, we're going to simply bring the legs in front of us, soles of the feet facing each other. Now you can bring your feet in close, which is probably going to give you a more intense stretch, or you can have them as far forward as you like. Some people like to lean back on their hands, but more typically you would allow the torso to come forward over the feet. So just allowing the torso to do that. Starting to find that edge, that first point of physical resistance. Probably feeling it in the groin already, and maybe at the sort of base of the spine, up the back muscles a little bit. Maybe just exploring, looking forward and allowing the head to hang. Seeing how that affects the target area of the groin. And using our breath through the energetic body to relax the muscles of the groin area. So inhaling into the groin and exhaling. One more maybe. Inhale and exhale. And as the muscles relax, we allow that energy to move to the connective tissues. Maybe the posture opens up a little bit and we find ourselves coming forward a little bit more. Now we may be comfortable just hanging here, or we may want to support ourselves. We can support ourselves with our hands. Or as Vanessa is demonstrating, you can use a block to take a little bit of the weight of the head. But equally, if you're comfortable just hanging, then just do that. If we allow the head to hang, we're going to get more rounding in the spine. If we look forward a little bit, we're going to get a straighter spine, tilt the pelvis a bit. And we may find that gives us a different sensation in the groin. Just finding what works for you. Finding stillness. Stillness in the body and the mind. Exploring the physical stillness. Connective tissue stress in the groin, both legs. Healthy stress in the bones, the knees, femur, pelvis. Coming up into the hips. Maybe even the lower back. And there, just maintain the physical stillness. Things might deepen a little bit. And that's the yin secret, just almost marinating here. Just getting our head into the yin space in this first posture. Surrender and relax. Physically and mentally. Allowing any thoughts or emotions that do start to arise to just come up. Let them drift off. A couple more breaths here. Just gently coming back up, keeping our seated position. We're just going to move to our next posture simply by taking the legs apart. Our target area now being still the groin, but also potentially the hamstrings. Just as far apart as you're comfortable. It's not that it has to be 90 degrees or 120 or even 180 for some people. But just as far as you're comfortable. We're going to be here for some time. And then bringing the body forward again, perhaps supporting yourself on your elbows, just while we start to find that edge. Breathing into the groins and the hamstrings. Using the breath to relax the muscles. And as the muscles relax, maybe finding that things open up a little bit. And we get the option to allow the body to come forward a little bit further. We might find that we want to support ourselves with a block. Other people prefer to grab a bolster and just support themselves with that. Or if you prefer, you can just allow the head to come towards the mat, if that's available to you. So wherever you're going to be comfortable for the next 8 or so minutes. If you're finding that you're not getting much stress in the groin or the hamstring, then we can straighten the back. So we look forward, then come back down, and that's going to have the effect of tilting the pelvis a little. It might give us a little bit more stress down here. And then we find some stillness. Exploring the physical stillness, connective tissue stress in the hamstrings and the groin. Hard to isolate those two because they basically run alongside each other in the thigh mandala. You might also find a little bit of stress in the glute coming up the back, the thoracolumbar, depending if we've got our back rounded or straight. And importantly for our focus today, getting the healthy stress on the bones, so the femur and the hips and the pelvis. Maybe even the sacrum at the base of the spine. Just maintaining the stillness, feeling the physical dimension deepen. Allowing the mental stillness to clear the way for thoughts and emotions. May have been looking for a way out for a while. If they do, just observe them. Allow them to come to the surface and just float away. No need to rationalise at the moment or try and solve them. But equally, don't push them back. Now, if you're comfortable here, we can stay here. We've got about another 4 minutes to go. And if you'd like to, you could try maybe bringing the body towards the left-hand side. You could stay there for a couple of minutes before we switch to the other side. In relation to the hips, we're just going to find some subtle changes to the effect on our body. So you might almost feel a bit of pinching there in the left hip. A little bit of compression, we don't want pinching, but a little bit of compression. Soft tissue, maybe soft tissue on bone, that's fine. Maybe a little bit more stress in the inside of the right groin. Maybe more stress in the left hamstring. So in terms of the hip joint overall. Just changing the stresses a little bit from being straightforward in front. Again, it doesn't matter how far forward you are. Maybe your head is touching your knee, maybe it's not, doesn't matter. Just so long as you can recognise the difference in our target areas with the different posture. A couple of minutes left, so we'll just swap to the other side, or if you're still in the middle, that's fine, stay there. Maybe coming to the right hand side. And again, just noting the differences between this and lying down in between the legs. So now a little bit more connective tissue stress in the left leg, the groin, maybe a little bit more in the right hamstring. Some compression in the right hip joint. More of an opening up of the left hip joint. Potentially also some stress there in the obliques to the left hand side. Just breathing in. Keep on bringing the mind back to the target area, the hips. So in there we've got the bones, we've got connective tissue, we've got muscles. So let's keep our focus on the bones and the connective tissue. What we're trying to do here is strengthen and lengthen the connective tissues for range of motion, and strengthen the bones of the hip joint and the pelvis. Just very gently, a long time in that position. So maybe the legs need a bit of help to come back together. And if you'd like to do a little bit of a counter pose, we can just do some wipers, dropping both knees to each side. Again, just to loosen up and neutralise those hips. Before we take a short rebound, so lying on our back, you can either lie flat or support yourself as I am. Preferably close the eyes. Take the attention, the awareness, straight down to the target area. So we've been working groin, hamstring, but our overall target area for this practice is the hip. So what sensations are arising for you in the upper leg and around the hips? Could you describe them to yourself? Are they physical? Are they more subtle, energetic? Or perhaps your response is largely emotional. Whatever you're feeling, just make a note of it. It's absolutely the right response for you. And in your own time, maybe rolling to one side and coming back up to a seated position. Legs in front. Our target area is going to be the hamstrings and the base of the spine, so the lumbar area. We're going to do that simply by folding the body forward. Now again, as we did with the previous postures, you might want to have to hand a block to support the head, as Vanessa's demonstrating. Or you might be happy to support your head with your hands for a short time. But initially we just want to find our edge. So where's that physical edge? Where's the point at which we meet that first resistance? And when we get there, we pause. We engage the breath through the energetic body. We inhale, we breathe into the target area, so back, the glutes, hamstrings, all those muscles in the back of the body. And as we exhale, we allow those muscles to relax. We'll take a couple of breaths. But gradually, we may find that those muscles relax, allowing the posture to open. We may find our torso moving down closer towards the mat. Now, as our target area here is the hamstrings and the lower back, we're going to get a deeper sensation with a straighter back. So again, we can tilt the pelvis, look forward, inhale, and as we exhale, just allow that body to come forward again. Just finding his stillness. And another 3 minutes or so here. Finding that stillness, exploring the connective tissue stress, hamstrings up the back of both legs, maybe even starting in the instep of the feet, coming up the back of the legs, up through the glute, all the way up the back, thoracolumbar, focused in the base of the spine. And healthy stress in the bones. Probably got some stress here in the knees, femur, pelvis, hip joint, and in the lumbar. Healthy stress in the bones regularly is critical to ensuring that the body keeps on rebuilding strength back into those areas we need it. And obviously the hips is an area that we find in the world today that many people have problems as they age with hips. One way of avoiding that is ensuring that we keep mobile, keep the range of motion as good as it can be, and keep telling our body and demonstrating to our body through these forms of exercise that we want these bones strengthened.
Otherwise the body will simply break down certain bones and rebuild certain other areas where it thinks we do need it.
Just slowly in your own time, coming back up into a seated position. If you want, you can go straight into rebound, or we can do a little counter pose by coming onto our feet, lifting the hips, sometimes called the tabletop. We can allow the head to drop back if we want to, or just look forward. And just a few seconds here, not too long. Just dropping the glutes back to the mat and coming back to a nice rebound. So again, with all of our rebounds, eyes closed, bring the focus back to the area we've been working, the target area. So the hamstrings, glutes, lower back. The whole area around the hips. And just open the mind to sensations that arise. Making a note of what they are, whether they're physical or subtle. Whether those sensations are different to the last rebound we had. And how different are the sensations to the experience we had in the posture. Just a couple of breaths. Getting ready for our next posture. The target area is going to be the glute. We've got a couple of options here. We can bring the left leg on top with the right leg extended. Or we can fold that right leg back so that we've got the knees stacked on top of each other. So if this isn't available to you, then simply have that right leg coming straight forward. And then bring our target areas glutes. Just finding our edge. We're going to want to bring the torso forward to bring that stress to the glutes. We might start by walking the hands forward. Just exploring where that first edge is for us. Different for everybody, so just again, as with all the Yin practices, just tune in and be aware of your own edge. Now if this is as far as you're going to go, even with the arms up here, so long as you're getting some stress in the target area, that's fine. Just breathing into the glutes. Exhaling, feeling the glutes relax. And relaxing. Maybe opening up a little. If the posture does open up a little, then we can start dropping the head forward As Vanessa's demonstrating, we can support the head on a block, or you could just allow the head to drop. Maybe the chin rests on the knee. Wherever you are, just finding that stillness. About 2.5 minutes or so, just relaxing, exploring that connective tissue stress. So the main target area is the glute of the top leg, so the left leg. We're also going to feel it in the right glute, down the outside of the left leg, the IT band, and maybe coming up through the back muscles, the thoracolumbar. Healthy stress again on the bones, knees, femur, pelvis, hip joint. Nice bit of flexion of the spine. Again, really working through into that hip joint. If your right leg's extended, then the sensations you're going to get are going to be mainly in the left-hand side. Come to the other side in a little over a minute. So just maintaining that stillness. So we're going to move straight into our next posture, where we're going to be targeting the hip flexors. But to do that, just bring yourself back up to a seated position. And we're simply going to take that top leg, left leg, bring that forward in front of us. Take the right leg back. Placing both hands on the inside of the left foot. Extending that back foot. So the target area here is the right hip flexor. We're only here for a short time before we move through some variations. So just start to settle in, find that edge. Breathing into that right hip. Releasing the hip flexor muscle. Even allowing the right side of the body to just fall a little bit to one side. We just want to make sure that we're getting the connective tissue stress there in the right hip flexor. Also some stress in the bones, so the compression in the left hip. We can stay here if you want, or if you're happy to, we can come down into a lower version, so we can actually bring our elbows onto the mat. Or if that's not available to you, you can get a couple of blocks, so you're almost sort of halfway. Vanessa's going to demonstrate that for us there. We're coming down. Now again, you're going to feel more intensity, so same target areas, probably a little bit more intensity in the left hip, and also potentially in the right hip flexor. Also probably going to feel it in the left glute as well, quite a bit down here. So again, let's use the breath to relax. We want to relax that left glute and the right hip flexor. As we relax, we might find that the groin feels like it's coming closer to the mat. That's just an opening up. And that opening up is really going to be putting some healthy stress there on the bones, knees, femur, pelvis, hip joint. Again, you could explore with the position of the head, letting it drop, or looking it forward. Just note what that does. Maybe a little bit of sensation there in the left hip. And now we're going to take the left foot. We're just going to tip the left foot onto its side so that we're on the edge of the left foot. Back up onto the hands as we started. We don't want to be carrying too much weight. Be mindful of that left knee. We don't want to be carrying too much weight in that left foot. This is really just a way of opening up that left hip in a slightly different way. So keep the weight transfer through the hands. And just get that left foot onto the edge. And just see it open up. Again, you may find this gives you a little bit more intensity in the right hip flexor. And if you want, you could even try bending that right leg up. Some people find that gives them a little bit more work on the hip flexor. But again, just be mindful of the left knee. A few more breaths here. Very gently. Just going to bring that left leg back onto hands and feet into a downward dog, just as a bit of a release. Now you can either just stay here, or if you want to walk the dog, as they say, feel free to walk and just move the hips a little bit. And then maybe back, just lifting the hips to the sky. You can even just bend the knees a little bit if you prefer. So coming back down, so we're going to do the other side. So do the other side. Again, the option, either the left leg forward, extended, and the right leg just bent over that, or we have both knees stacked on top with the right knee on top this time. So again, our target area is the glutes. Main target area is going to be the right glute, but we're going to feel it in both. And we just start by finding the edge. With all of these asymmetrical postures, it's worth just reminding ourselves every now and again that each side may be very different indeed. So just because I could start with my elbows on the mat on the other side, that may not be available to me on this side. And we certainly don't want to force this side to look like the other side. We might injure ourselves. So again, yin mindset, turn inward, be aware, just note where the edge is on this side. When we reach the edge, pausing, employing the breath, the energetic body to relax the glutes, breathing into both glutes, exhaling, allowing that energy to move to the connective tissues, maybe allowing us to adjust as we open up. Just finding that place of stillness. You're going to be comfortable for the next 3 minutes or so. Exploring the connective tissue stress in the right glute, also the left glute. I T-band down the outside of the right leg. Coming up the back muscles, thoracolumbar. And some really healthy stress in the knees, femur, pelvis, and the hip joints. So again, as we said on the other side, if you're using the variation where your left leg is still extended, then you're really just going to feel this in the right glute and the right hips. It's okay, we're just balancing out what we did on the other side. Maintaining that stillness. Stillness of the mind. Stillness of the mind, clearing blockages to emotions and thoughts. Just let them drift away.
One more breath.
As we did on the other side, we're going to bring the right leg forward, so the top leg forward. The hands on the inside of that right foot, extending the left leg behind us. Target area, the hip flexor. So just settling into our posture. If we do find we have any pinching here in the right hip, we can always try walking a little bit to the left. Sometimes that can alleviate it. Otherwise, you might want to get some blocks and just elevate the torso a little bit. And just here for a minute, so let's bring our attention straight away to the left hip flexor, using the breath to relax. As it relaxes, sensing perhaps that it opens up a little bit. Maybe the left side starts to drop a little bit, the left side of the body, that's fine. So long as we're still feeling it in the target area, the hip flexor. Feeling a bit of compression in the hip joint on the right side. Coming down onto the elbows, either straight onto the mat or onto blocks. Again, Vanessa's demonstrating that one. So coming down. So probably feeling a little bit more intensity here on the left hip flexor, almost certainly in the right hip joint. But just finding that edge and relaxing. Breathing into the left hip flexor, the right glute. Relaxing those muscles. Seeing if that allows us to open up a little bit. And just maintaining this stillness as the physical side deepens for another 30 seconds or so. Coming back up onto the hands and taking that right foot out onto the edge. Again, being mindful, very mindful of the right knee. We don't want to put too much load through that knee at this angle. So we're keeping the transfer of the load through the hands to the mat. And this is not really carrying load, it's just allowing us to open up the hip in a different way. Okay, we'll certainly get a different sensation in the left hip flexor. For some it's more intense, for others it's not. Okay, and a little bit more in the right glute, right eye T-bone. And just a different stress of the bones in the femur and the hip joint, pelvis. Maybe looking forward, maybe allowing the head to drop. All the while just noting what these variations do. Every posture, we're mapping our response. Yeah, very gently, just bringing that right foot back to the flat of the foot, walking back, taking the hips towards the ceiling, whatever your version of the dog is, whether it's flat feet or bent knees, or walking the dog. Whatever works for you in terms of just loosening up and neutralising those hips a little bit. Coming back down to all fours, and just coming back to a seated position. So for our next target area, we're going to be working with the quads, another asymmetrical either side posture. So we're going to start with the right leg. We're going to take the right leg back, leaving the left leg extended. Being mindful of the knees. If you have any issues with the knees, just be very mindful of that. And we're just going to walk the hands behind us, maybe even come down onto elbows. And for some people, this is as far as they want to go, and that's fine. If it is, we could even just pull in a bolster and support ourselves in that way. For others, it's not enough. The target area is the quad, so if we're not feeling it here in the quad, then if the knees are comfortable with it, we can come right back to the mat. Doesn't matter if the knee's coming out or it's off the mat, just as long as you're not getting any pain in there. And from here, we're just finding that edge. So relaxing the quads in the right leg. You can use the breath if that's helpful. What other method of relaxation you use. As we relax, posture opens. We might want to take our arms overhead. Again, just noting the effect on the quad. If we wish, we can bring our left leg, bend our left leg up. And you're going to feel that's going to change the stress here in the right quad. Probably introduce some stress in the right rectus abdominis and oblique. We can even allow that left knee to drop to the mat. And we can play with the position of the head from side to side, just to see what that does down this right side of the body. So just finding your stillness wherever you choose, exploring that connective tissue all the way from the right quad, maybe the hip flexor, rectus abdominis, oblique. And a healthy stress on the bones, knees, femur, pelvis, hip joints. Maybe even a little bit of compression there in the base of the spine. Just one more breath here. Swap into the other side. Gently just leading to the left, letting out that right leg. Bringing the left leg back. It's exactly the same, just on the other side. Finding your edge. So either on your elbows or leaning back onto the hands. Bearing in mind the different response of the different sides. So do I need to stay here? Should I support myself with a bolster behind my back? Or do I want on this side to go down to the mat? So long as you're getting that stress in the left quad, you're getting the benefits of the posture. So relaxing the muscle in the left quad, breathing into it, exhaling away the stress. Maybe taking the arms over the head, taking stock, maybe deciding that you want to bend that right leg, leave it up here, move the foot around perhaps, or just drop out the knee. Doing each of the variations consciously and with full awareness, so that you can actually recognise what is the best combination of variations for you in relation to the target area. Which gives you the best stress in the left quad. Lowering that connective tissue stress from the left quad all the way up, hip flexor, rectus abdominis, maybe even the oblique, if you turn the head. And healthy stress in the bones, knees, femur, pelvis, hip joint, compression in the base of the spine. Beautiful hip opener. So as a hip opener, perhaps there is some emotional release. Straightening that right leg, leaning to the right side, helping that left leg out. Now we're going to be working with the same target area, but we're going to be doing it with both legs at the same time. I'm going to use a block to support just underneath the sacrum, but Vanessa is going to demonstrate this posture without a block. So putting the block just in between the feet. And again, coming back as we did before. Just finding that edge. Target area is the quads in both legs. If we're comfortable, again, we could support ourselves with a bolster behind or come back down. Now I like to use a block under the sacrum because for me I find it takes a little bit of pressure off the knees. So if you do have knees that can be a bit sensitive, it might be worth trying, but do obviously be very careful with the knees. Again, there's no issue with the knees being off the ground, so long as there's no pain. Finding that edge, relaxing the muscles in both quads. And as we relax the muscles with the breath, might want to adjust, maybe take the arms overhead. And they can either be holding either elbow straight out or stop sign. If you just try those, you'll recognise that you get a different response here, particularly in the rectus abdominis. So just finding your posture, finding some stillness, exploring the connective tissue stress in the quads, coming up through the hip flexors, rectus abdominis, maybe even the obliques, and the healthy stress in the bones, the knees, femur, pelvis, hip joint. And perhaps more so if you're using a block like I am, you're going to get quite a healthy compression in the base of the spine, in the lumbar, sacrum, lumbar area. And then a nice extension of the spine all the way up the back. So just maintaining that stillness here. Very open posture with the hips open, the heart open. So again, maybe a posture where the mental stillness will really allow some thoughts and emotions to emerge. allowing anything that does emerge to just drift away. And here, just leaning to one side, taking one leg out and the other, removing the block. Nice little counter, just coming over onto the front of the body, supporting on the elbows, tucking the feet. And just holding here. There's a bit of a counter to that last posture. Looking forward or allowing the head to hang. Just one more breath. Knees drop. So getting ready now for our final posture. The target area is going to be the obliques, but also the glutes. And we're going to do that with a lovely little twist. So coming to lying on our back. Going to bring both legs, bend both legs. And we're going to bring the right leg on top of the left. We can either leave that there, which is a one cross, or if you prefer, you can take the foot behind, so the right foot behind the left leg again, so we've almost got two twists. And from here, we're just going to allow that top right knee to come over to the left-hand side of the mat. We can move the knee up or down as suits us. So you might want to explore that a little bit. But typically I'll just leave it straight down where it is. Maybe leave the left hand on top of the knee, just the weight of the hand I find quite helpful in the twist. And the right arm can be out to the side or up above the head. So just finding that edge. Finding that first edge, that first point of physical resistance. Breathing into the right glute and the obliques. Just using the breath to relax those muscle groups, allowing any muscular stress to pass to the connective tissues. Seeing if that allows us to adjust if things open up a little bit more. And if that's the case, we might find the knee comes down a little bit closer to the mat. Maybe turning the head away from the knee. And then we find our stillness. Just under a minute left. Couple more breaths. Gently unwinding those legs. Maybe straightening them out before we bend them back. And gently bring that left leg over on top to the other side. One twist or two. Letting that left knee drop towards the right side of the mat. Maybe the right hand on top of the left knee. Right arm out to the side or above, wherever it's comfortable. And starting to find that edge. Using the breath to relax the left glute and the obliques. As the muscles relax, maybe the posture opens up a little. Perhaps we feel that knee moving down towards the mat. As we settle into a stillness. Couple more breaths. Gently untwisting those legs. And maybe bringing the knees into the chest. Maybe giving them a hug. Maybe circling one way and then the other. Just a bit of a reset for the spine, base of the spine. Coming now into a lying posture on our back, ready for our final posture, Shavasana. So lying on our back, arms and legs relaxed, eyes closed if we're comfortable, or a soft focus at the ceiling. Coming back to the breath. Maybe feeling the movement of the belly as we inhale and exhale. The belly rises as we inhale and falls as we exhale. Rising and falling in rhythm with your breath. Making the rising and the falling of the belly the focus of your attention. Very gently on the next inhale, draw the breath down just a little bit further to our target area of the hips. Maybe to a point between the pelvis and the belly button. The area which some consider to be the second chakra or svadhisthana. Just breathing here a couple of times. Energetically, this area is associated with creativity and emotions. So as we breathe into this area, maybe you too can sense an increase in the energetic levels. And as that happens, feel that energy move out gradually into the broader hip area, the area that we've been targeting. Feel that energy move back towards the glutes, down towards the hip flexors, down towards the pelvis, the hip joints. Maybe that energy expresses itself as a subtle, warm glow, the result of all of your efforts over the last 90 minutes. Just enjoy that sensation, however it is expressed for you. And feel the openness in the physical body, the energetic body, and the emotional body in this area. Just a couple more breaths here now. Now, very gently in your own time, maybe just wriggle the fingers and the toes. Just bringing some feeling back to those extremities. Keeping the eyes closed for now. Maybe taking the arms overhead, stretching. Gently just rolling to one side, coming up to a comfortable seated position. When you're ready, just gently blinking open the eyes. And with a couple of deeper breaths, that concludes our 90-minute Yin for the hips practice. Namaste.